Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 144 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu show. So today, I know most of you are just tuning in to this episode really to see if my head got shaved at Vacation Bible School last week. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tell you're disappointed. It did not get shaved. Neither did Ross's. The kids didn't get to 300 kids, and so neither of us got our head shaved. We both have beautiful manes on top of our heads still. But we finished Vacation Bible School strong because, it's like finishing WrestleMania without shaving somebody's head. The kids were disappointed, even though they didn't. It was their fault. They could have invited more friends. But the kids were disappointed. So we did a whole thing where we slimed Ross. It was still great. It really taught the kids that if somebody's mean to you enough and you don't get to shave your head, you can still get even with them by sliming someone. But it was a great time. It was a great thing. We finished the night with a handshake contract, though. Next year, someone at Vacation Bible School will be getting their head shaved. If they are 300 or over, it will be Ross, my purple belt that put his hair on the line at the beginning of the week for Vacation Bible School. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, you got to listen to last week's episode. And then, if the kids don't get 300, if we have 299 or less, then I get my head shaved next year. So there's a lot on the line. If you guys are within driving distance of Pontoon Beach, Illinois, and have a child, I don't even care how old the kid is. Even if they're not in the age range of Vacation Bible School, get them in next year. We'll get, during the summer, we'll get them counted and they will protect my hair. So don't forget to help me out next year. I think like mid-July is usually going to be the time we do it. So keep that in mind, guys. But let's go ahead and quit this rant and go ahead and get into the episode. I have something fun to talk about. We've talked about it before in kind of passing. In different episodes, I've referenced this, and I've referenced this as the greatest jiu-jitsu advice that I have ever gotten. I've referenced it this way for years. Within a month of getting the advice, I considered it the greatest jiu-jitsu advice that I've ever gotten. And it was from our friend Sean Williams, who actually on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show has the most listened to episode on the entire show. And so it makes sense because he's given out great advice. We actually talk a little bit about this advice that he gave me, but I thought it would be better for us to do kind of a whole in-depth episode on it because I think this is really important, and I think it'll be helpful for a lot of people, especially people who feel like they are good at jiu-jitsu, but they're struggling to get better. They're struggling to go from like very good where they can beat most people to black belt level to really high level. You're even a blue belt trying to get to purple belt. This episode will be really helpful, and I'll explain where I was at when I got the advice and how it helped me. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the episode. All right, so it's time for the greatest jiu-jitsu advice that I have ever gotten. So I've told this on the podcast before. There was this time for me that I was a purple belt. I had just opened my own school, and the lead up to this is I had a really great peak at blue belt. As a competitor, I was really doing well. And then when I got my purple belt, the competition stepped up a little bit and my training method really didn't. And I had kind of struggle at the beginning of purple belt. Well, then what started to happen was started to get around the right guys and get enough training and enough, start to learn how to positional spar, start to learn how to drill. And I started to change my jiu-jitsu. I started to get better, and I started to have some success at purple belt for the first time. Well, then I opened my school. I was starting to do a little bit better as a competitor. It was time to open a school. This was something that I had dreamed of doing since I was 14, since I started jiu-jitsu. And at the time, I think I'm I'm 20 years old, 21 years old when I opened my school. And again, I start to notice a dip in my ability to compete. And I mean, of course, I was noticing a dip in my ability to compete. I was working full time as a personal trainer and then trying to run a jiu-jitsu school while training full time as a jiu-jitsu athlete. And so one of those three things was suffering, and it was my training. I'm losing my training partners. I'm having to teach brand new people jujitsu now instead of getting to show up at Kyle's gym and train with really tough guys. Or we had a really good group of guys that would train in my garage. So I was starting to find this crossroads at a really young age that a lot of people find in their 30s, where they go, okay, I can either be a competitor or I can be a coach. And they a lot of times kind of let themselves go, let their jujitsus go, and they stop progressing. And obviously, I'm young, I'm not going to do that. But I had the desire to do it. I wanted to be done with competing. It was frustrating. I was losing a lot, and I just didn't feel like I had what I needed to get better anymore. And I went to the Sean Williams seminar, and this was one that my coach was having. And Sean was just he is a great explainer of jujitsu. And the cool thing about a Sean Williams seminar is like 10 of us may go to a Sean Williams seminar, and all 10 may get completely jujitsu changing tips or tricks, and all 10 of us may get completely different ones. We may have no overlap in what we heard Sean say, because he says so many important things. He says so many little things, and then you get to kind of pick out what's important and what you need. And so it was at the very end of the seminar. I want to say, I don't even think that it's what we were talking about. I think he just kind of started to bring this up because he always finishes his seminar with uh, a bit of a rant, a bit of a talk on training, or a bit of a talk on position, just something helpful for the people that learn that way. And so we get to the end of the seminar, and he starts talking about this idea of, how do you get better? You know what? Now that I think about it, shoot, this was my how do you suck less at jujitsu question before I ever had a how do you suck less at jujitsu question. I would always raise my hand and ask guys like, hey, do you have any tips on getting better? That's weird that I forgot that I asked that question. I used to ask this at every seminar I would go to. Now I ask probably different ones, but it really was the same question that we asked the first 100 interviewees on the show, which is, how do you suck less at jujitsu? But I was asking him about training and getting better. And so maybe he was giving an answer that he thought was specific to me, and it really was. But there's a lot to dissect from this answer, enough to get a whole 45-minute to an hour podcast out of. And so his answer was this. It was a story, and it was him talking to Hodger Gracie. And he said Hodger had just won world's every match by submission, weight, and open class. And at the time, Hodger's best training partner that he had at his school was a purple belt that weighed like 190 pounds or something like that, or 180 pounds. And Sean got to ask him, hey, how are you training with a 180-pound purple belt and getting these results as a competitor? These competitors that you're fighting against, they have the best training partners in the world. And Sean gave a really Hodger gave a really interesting answer. He said, well, I roll without strength. And what's interesting is, roll without strength. What do you mean, roll without strength? Most people, when you say that, have never even heard of doing jujitsu without using their strength, doing jujitsu without using their full grit and trying to get a move to work. But if jujitsu works for someone who is much weaker than you, and the same technique works for someone who is much weaker than you, then strength really isn't a necessary component for the move to work. And so, with that advice, just that little bit of an idea on rolling without strength, and how Sean put it was, well, if you're rolling without strength, what are you using? He said you're using timing, you're using technique, and you're using weight distribution. Okay, so those are your things that you're thinking about, not your strength. Eventually, when he came on the podcast, he dug a little deeper and used the word physical attributes instead of strength. We'll dig into that in a second. But I just want to kind of tell you the rest of my story, where roll without strength started to help. So keep in mind, most of my training partners at this time are brand new white belts. And the only jujitsu that those people know is the jujitsu that I have taught them. And the problem is I've never really taught anybody jujitsu at that point. I am a brand new coach. I am learning how to get people to learn. I'm learning how what I should be trying to get people to learn. And so it's very trial and error. Hey guys, Josh here. I just wanted to interrupt this podcast with actually some bad news. I have good news, but I have bad news. And the bad news is our brand new instructional How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu is only going to be available until September 1st. On September 1st, we are putting it back into the vault. That will allow us to add more content to it and bring it back eventually. And we will bring it back, but it will not be available for purchase after September 1st. So if you want to check out How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu, this instructional by myself and my dad, where we look at all these different training methods that we have discovered over the last 15 years of training together, and we take you through an actual training session of ours and show you exactly how we progress at Jiu-Jitsu and exactly how we train Jiu-Jitsu. You can go to simplifyingjujitsu.com/learn to check out How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu. But don't forget, the sale on How to Learn Jiu-Jitsu only lasts until September 1st. If you've purchased it already, you have it forever. You don't have to worry about losing it. But if you have not purchased it yet, you have to go before September 1st. Again, this is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com/learn. Let's get back to the episode. I'm not creating good training partners. That's something we don't realize a lot. But as a group, you get the right group of 10, 20, 30 people, they make each other better training partners. We're all making each other better at jiu-jitsu. When I come in with a new technique or a new guard that I'm playing and I start to beat everybody with it, well, guess what everybody at the school does? They either talk about it and figure out a way to beat it, or they start playing it too. They all start adding it too. And so I have now made my training partners tougher. I've made my training partners better. And for years, I did that in my garage and in my coach's school, just tried to have the right group of people for me to really chase stuff as an adult purple belt and really compete at a high level as an adult purple belt. Well, then what starts to happen is I stopped being able to go there. The guys from the garage that go to my gym, they, it's in a little bit different of a place. The schedules aren't as easy as they were when we could all just build a schedule around how we wanted to train. And so I'm losing a lot of my training partners. It's a battle for me, because everybody that I go with is going 100% on me, but they're not using very good technique. So all I'm getting to defend against and learn against is people hugging my head from my closed guard. Like this isn't doing it for me, because now I go and compete against a high level purple belt who's playing lasso or who's playing a lapel guard or something like that. How am I going to train these things? I knew I could double down on positional sparring, but this idea of roll without strength was interesting to me, because when I was going with these white belts that are going full force for the 2 or 3 minutes that they had cardio trying to kill me, I was having to fight hard. It wasn't super technical stuff, but I was having to fight hard. So I just decided, what if I didn't fight hard in these things? What if I start to roll without strength? And exactly what happened or what Sean said would happen started to happen. I would go into these training sessions and I would every once in a while I would get swept by like a white or a blue belt. I would get off balance by a white or a blue belt. I'm like, well, that shouldn't happen. And I think normally most of us would think of this as a bad thing. You're rolling without your physical attributes. I'm rolling without speed, explosiveness. I'm trying to roll actually even without flexibility. I'm just trying to use the technical jujitsu that I know. And as we talk about on the podcast, the control jujitsu that I know and not the chaos jujitsu. And something interesting started to happen. I started to get scored on, and I go, wait, I don't get scored on even with good purple belts because I'm so used to using strength and athleticism. Huh. But now I'm getting scored on by blue and white belts. Maybe I'm not as good at jujitsu as I thought. And I started to train without strength. And I did this for probably 3 months where I just, every round, I didn't have any tournaments coming up, so I wasn't worried about it. Every round that I would go with somebody, whether they were a blue belt, a purple belt, a black belt, a white belt, I said, I am going to be effortless in this round. And if you try to do that, if you try to, you're probably, I'm going to sell you on rolling without strength, most likely, if you listen to this whole episode. If you try to do it, you're going to lose rounds that you never lost before. And then there are going to be times because we all have egos and we're all, as much as we act like we don't, we all care about winning in jiu-jitsu a lot. You're going to start to resist when you shouldn't. You're going to start to tense up and you're going to start to fight hard when you promised yourself you were going to be effortless. As this happens, you start to tire yourself. You stop getting the benefits of rolling without strength. So try to remind yourself, okay, just let your guard get past and then restart from your guard position or restart from bottom side control and say, now I'm going to get on my side. Now I'm going to escape without strength, without grit, without explosiveness. And what that does to you, it does a few things. First, it makes you more technical. You will feel parts of jiu-jitsu that you have never felt before. And you will find that a lot of things that you muscle hard didn't need to be muscled at all. They needed to be tweaked an inch. They needed to be tweaked by a half of a second. That's it. They did not need to be muscled. And it's so often when we take that away and we stop saying, okay, I can't just squeeze him from here. I have to create a new angle. I have to try something different because that's the only way I can continue to be effortless. All of his frames are on one side. I need to go the other way. When I start to think in these terms, I also start to get crazy cardio. I start to be able to do jujitsu indefinitely. That was the biggest thing that I noticed when I started to roll without strength. I used to be able to roll hard for like 30 to 45 minutes of doing whatever, threes or fives with a minute break. And then all of a sudden, rolling effortlessly, I felt like I could roll for an hour and a half, 2 hours against decent guys. And it wasn't a big deal. I was able to just keep fighting and keep beating people up. And what eventually happened was I was able to go with most people. Of course, I have some tough guys, and I can't do this still, even to this day, with my tough guys. But I was able to roll pretty effortlessly with most people. And then what's interesting is there have been times at black belt that I have been able to do this against guys on the mat, roll totally effortlessly, feel really smooth. And there have also been guys that have done it to me. Specifically, when I fought Murillo Santana, that was a guy that there wasn't a point where I said, oh my gosh, he's just so much stronger. Or, I just can't beat this one thing. It was the effortlessness. It was the fact that he wasn't trying and I was trying full force. And eventually, you get gassed. Eventually, we can't keep that up if he isn't trying but pushing the pace, and I am trying and absorbing the pace. I'm going to lose. And so, roll without strength not only is a great way to train, but as you get good, it's a great way to compete. And we're going to talk about what I really mean by roll without strength and roll without attributes now, because I think it's still confusing for people. Of course, I'm moving my body. I still have to use my muscles, right? I still have to move. But what I mean by strength is when I get to side control on you, and the only way that I can keep it is by getting an underhook and getting the back of your neck and then squeezing you really hard. And as soon as I stop squeezing you, you start to escape. That means that I don't have good jujitsu. That means I don't have a good side control. If I cannot keep you on your back with my legs, with my hands, with just being able to use my weight distribution in the right way and do that without effort, I'm not good at side control. When I feel that, when I can get on to side control and I can feel somebody squeeze really, or when I'm in side control, I feel somebody squeeze really hard. And I'm like underneath, eventually, when you feel that, usually you get panicked. Eventually, you start to realize, oh, he's squeezing me really hard because he has no way of keeping me here without physical attributes. Well, I'll let him squeeze me for a little bit. I'll try to build a frame while he's squeezing me because once he lets go, he's already told me that he doesn't know how to hold me. He's already told me that I'm going to be able to get on my side and I'm going to escape. And mount is similar. You start to go with mount with somebody, and all they try to do is they try to go grapevines and drive their hips into you. You go, okay, well, I can absorb this for a bit while I'm trying to fight my feet free. This guy doesn't know how to move and keep me pinned and keep me down. He doesn't know how to create new angles, create wedges, and smash. And so what happens when we start to roll without attributes? We start to really get exposed to where we suck. Okay. So, for instance, if you have a great guard, you have great guard retention. And I know there aren't many attributes that can be used from guard. I suppose you can use speed, but if the guy on top is standing, you really aren't going to be faster than almost anybody while you're sitting on your butt. But there is one physical attribute that we use from guard, and it's flexibility. That's why naturally flexible guys tend to be better at guard, is because that is the one attribute that matters for guard. Of course, being able to bench press people off, yes, that's great. That's almost like excess of a certain attribute, like being super duper strong. But still, guys that can bench press you from side control don't inherently have good guards, right? Guys that are naturally flexible, generally, it's not very hard for them to learn guard retention. And so if we're trying to roll without physical attributes and not just roll without strength, that means from guard, I need to not just be flexible. I need to be able to win the inside fights. So I'm not having to invert all the time, right? And the guys that can invert, they get this cheap way of playing guard, of learning guard, because guard is about keeping the person in front of you and creating strong angles. Well, they create a lot of angles for us when we're flexible and we can just throw our leg in front of their face, right? So we learn to catch a lot of triangles and arm locks just because of that physical attribute. Well, if you take that physical attribute away from most people, if I say, hey, you're not allowed to be flexible, just not allowed to use excess flexibility, usually most people's guards are like paper after that. So to get better at guard retention, get good at retaining without using flexibility. Get good at retaining by winning grip fights. Get good at retaining by winning the inside control with your feet or your hands. Get good at retaining by being able to throw in butterfly hooks when you need to, instead of looping your leg in front of the head. So that is how you kind of can treat anything, right? Bottom side control. We could look at, and I'm using these, the roll without strength, roll without attributes. I guess we're kind of looking at positional sparring now. But what it will help with is it will help you know what the actual fight is. If I am just trying to push on you from bottom side control and I don't realize that the true fight is me getting on my side, then you're going to smash me. You're going to beat me all day. I'm going to waste energy. And I have to use physical attributes to drive my back into the floor and then try to just push you, right? But as I get better at learning some frames, as I get better at learning, okay, my hips are free, I can move my hips, or my shoulders are free, I can move my shoulders, I start to get better at creating momentum. I start to get better at getting on my side, and I don't need to use strength. I don't need to use speed for this. And so, hey guys, Josh here. Just wanted to interrupt the podcast really quick and tell you about something really exciting that we have going on at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Right now, my second ebook is available at simplifyingjujitsu.com. It is called The 3 Lenses. It is written about training method and, most importantly, what training methods will work for you as an individual. If you know how you best learn jujitsu, you can start to build a routine and build a schedule to progress at jujitsu way faster than you ever have before. And this ebook that is absolutely free, The 3 Lenses, will help you do that. Again, this is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. That is simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. Let's get back to the episode. It kind of takes us to, I guess, that it to the point where you start to notice, because some black belts are actually listening to this. It's surprising to people how many black belts listen, or surprising to me at least, how many black belts listen to the show. I will get a lot of the messages I get are from purple, brown, and black belts. I get like so few messages anymore from white belts or even blue belts. Of course, I have certain white belt and blue belts that I message all the time, but most of the time it is like purple, brown, and black belts. And so to me, that's super flattering. That's super cool. Hopefully this stuff that I'm explaining is helpful to you guys, and that's why you keep listening. But there are some purple, brown, and black belts who have discovered this on their own, who say, hey, I roll effortlessly, but I still just don't have the training partners. I roll effortlessly with everybody in my gym, and I beat them pretty easily. So then, can you roll effortlessly with a purpose? Can you start to say, okay, I'm going to Kimura everybody today. I'm going to armbar everybody today. I'm going to triangle everybody today. And then do that effortlessly. Then can you do it the next week? And then can you do it the next week? When you start to do these things, you're creating better training partners. You're creating training partners who now know how to defend triangles. And so now it's going to be even harder for me to do it effortlessly. Eventually, it's going to be impossible. Eventually, my guys will just naturally get better if I keep attacking the same thing. And whether it's through conversation, whether it's through whatever, they will get better and they will be able to beat. They'll be able to beat whatever you keep focusing on, right? And so you can use roll without attributes for pretty much any training method that we use. You know, we talk about the end goal method. Say you start to get good at whatever position you've been end goaling. Then you start taking away physical attributes, and you say, well, I need to use no strength to finish this. I need to use no flexibility to finish this, or, you know, whatever, right? You start to take away your physical attributes and tighten that technique or concept or whatever you were thinking of while you're doing jujitsu. It tightens it even more because you get to feel way more. Right? Think about it. If you were to tighten all of your muscles up right now and somebody were to poke you, it would be hard for you to probably even identify where you got poked, or especially if they did it really light. But if you're relaxed and you get poked, you know exactly. You're like, oh, wait, what was that? Did a mosquito just land on me? So when we're doing jujitsu, it's no different. If I want to feel jujitsu, I need to be effortless. I can't be clouding my feel with strength and speed and explosiveness. And so kind of on that note of rolling with purpose, this is just something that I needed to add on to an episode. And so if you notice in the description lately, I've been putting little bonus thoughts. And so sometimes I have a short thought that I need to explain. And we can talk about this with rolling without strength. We'll look at rolling without strength with designated winner last. We'll talk about that at the very end. But right here, I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about this idea of practicing winning. There are a lot of people that train in tough rooms that get really discouraged and they go, man, I never win a round. I seem to lose to everybody. Everybody's so tough. And a lot of times it's because you don't practice winning. You don't go with somebody who you know you are going to beat and then beat them. When it's generally the people that struggle with this are the people that are too nice. Okay. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. When I first started jujitsu, I was too nice too. And eventually you got to get out of that mindset. When somebody's new, it's okay to beat them. It's not okay to just rough them up for no reason, but it is okay to beat them, especially if you're thinking in terms of rolling without strength, rolling effortlessly. But you need to practice winning. If you don't practice winning, how do you expect to beat all these guys that you roll with that are better than you, right? The reason you're losing every round is just because you're only rolling with people who are better than you at jiu-jitsu. So practice winning sometimes. Practice not getting beat up. Even if you do it one day out of the week and you say, hey, this is my day to win. Um, all the other days I will, it doesn't really matter. But today, I'll roll with tough guys all the other days and get beat up every round. But today on Wednesday, I know it's an easier room and I could kind of beat up some guys in that room. And so I'm going to make sure to do that. I'm going to make sure I get my rounds going with guys that I am better than, and I am even rolling with purpose and saying, I'm trying to finish them with this thing I'm trying to get better at, or I'm trying to finish them effortlessly, or whatever, right? But practicing winning is an important habit that most people, because we're ego driven, they do, but there is a percentage of jujitsu that is so kind and not ego driven that they don't practice winning, and you see this among girls too. They're nice to the new girls and they're kind of in that middle ground, but they can't beat the better girls. Well, the only way you're going to beat the better girls is by practicing beating people. And who should you practice beating? Practice on the new people. And for the new people, you are just on that circle of life. Eventually, you will work defense enough. You will have some ideas of jiu-jitsu enough that there is going to be a new layer of people that come in. And then you get to beat them up. That is how we get better. We get better at jiu-jitsu as a team by losing. And learning from it, right? If you keep losing to the same guy day in, day out, and trust me, I did this for years at different times in my training where there were just guys at the gym that I absolutely could not beat. But then I would beat all these other guys. And instead of just going, well, I'm just going to roll with the guy that I can't beat, I kept rolling and getting reps against the guys that I could too. And eventually, those guys that I couldn't beat, I could beat because I was getting enough reps, I was getting enough training, and I was really training with a purpose. And let's finish this episode, or the content part of this episode, with this. We can also add rolling without attributes to our designated winner. And to me, when you're doing designated winner, that should be the focus, is it should feel like flow. Because we talk a lot about this idea of control jujitsu, and that is jujitsu that works without using physical attributes. Really, the way I always explain it is that is my dad's jujitsu. He's a 61-year-old black belt. Yeah, he can't use a lot of physical attributes. He just doesn't have them. And especially when you're rolling with guys that are 30, they have more physical attributes than you in every situation. And so you have to use control jujitsu. Then when we start to add physical attributes, it starts to become chaos jujitsu. And the reason that it's chaos jujitsu when you add physical attributes is because when I use strength to complete something, eventually I'm going to fight somebody who's stronger than me. When I use speed to complete something, eventually I'm going to fight somebody who's faster than me. But when I use better technique, better precision, better timing, those things can only be beaten with better technique, better precision, better timing. And then guess what I use? That's when I try to use strength. Only when we lose in those positions should we try to use strength to fill that gap. So many people just try to use strength because they're strong. And you really miss out on so much jujitsu when you do this. One of the easiest ways I think to correct this for people is take one position at a time and start learning designated winner. If you don't know what designated winner is, I believe it is episode 129. It is called Mastering the Flow. And so you can go there, and it's got a lot of really good content on this new training method. But if you focus on designated winner and focus on not using physical attributes, especially to get good at new things, you are going to be able to hit those things without physicality. And um, I think I think that's all I have for you guys today. But yeah, adding it in with designated winner, that was the last on my notes. Make sure, I guess we'll just reiterate everything. Make sure that if you are wanting to get better at jiu-jitsu, that there are times that you roll without physical attributes, whether it's positional sparring, whether it's designated winner, really drilling. If you're drilling with physical attributes, that's probably not the best thing. I think you could do that for cardio. There are reasons you could do that, but for progressing at jiu-jitsu, yeah, you should not ever be drilling with physical attributes. But from there, don't forget that it is important to practice winning. That's really what we're doing a lot of. We're practicing winning, and then like practicing winning in even tougher circumstances to win by taking away our physical attributes. And of course, then rolling with tougher and tougher people, and rolling with a purpose, rolling with the idea that not only am I using no strength and effort, eventually the goal is to find a Kimura on this round, and so that is how I roll with purpose. That's how I can roll without attributes. And I think that's all I have for you guys. We'll go ahead and let Josh close us out. And that is the episode. I just want to thank you guys for checking this one out. Make sure if you guys are enjoying this show, I didn't put this as a commercial this time, but make sure if you guys are enjoying the show that you guys give me a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening. Unless that platform is YouTube, then of course, whatever you're supposed to give me on YouTube, you give me. I think like a thumbs up and a subscribe. And if you guys aren't subscribing to whatever platform you listen, be sure to subscribe to the show. I post a new hour-long episode every Thursday, and then a 15-minute Suck Less Saturday every Saturday. And so if you guys also, if you have any questions for Suck Less Saturday, be sure to send me an email, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. I will save it. I don't always reply to the emails for the Suck Less Saturday ones. I usually only reply to ones that aren't for Suck Less Saturday. But if you guys have a good question, and it can be about anything, it can be about the culture of jiu-jitsu, it can be about training method, it can be about specific technique, or what even concepts to be thinking of from a specific position. Really, there is no limit to what I would answer on a Suck Less Saturday. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you give me that 5-star review. And most importantly, I hope today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys. Hey guys, Josh here again. I noticed that the podcast is over, but you are still listening. So you might still be in search of some really good free content that the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show provides. So if that is the case, if you guys are looking for some solo episodes where you can learn more about efficiency and effectiveness in Jiu-Jitsu, I would highly recommend 2 episodes. The first is episode 111, and that is on blitzing. It's this idea of pacing that most people, even black belts, don't think about. And then episode 129 is on designated winner. It is this new training concept that we have been doing at my team. We've been talking about a lot on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. I've actually been traveling the country and teaching this training method. And so as we continue to grow the show, I think that is going to be the episode that I push most people to. It's episode 129, designated winner, learning to master the flow. This is kind of the missing piece between drilling drilling and flowing and positional sparring. You kind of get to combine all three of those things with Designated Winner and get the effects of all three of those things with Designated Winner. Also, if you guys are interested, if you're looking for some more deep dives into specific things in jiu-jitsu, you can always go to simplifyingjujitsu.com, where I have all of my instructionals, all of my dad's instructionals, and actually a few from my coach Kyle Watson, my friend Nick Sanders, John Prine, really some amazing black belts instructing you at simplifyingjujitsu.com. Also at simplifyingjujitsu.com, I have a free ebook for you guys. It is called The Three Lenses. It is the three lenses that people look through to learn jiu-jitsu. Most of us only ever see or learn from one of the lenses, and simply by adding the extra perspective of the other two, you will triple how quickly you get good at jiu-jitsu, especially how well you understand jiu-jitsu. And that is what this free ebook really provides, is a very good way for you to understand the language, understand what's happening, understanding why you are getting better, or more importantly, why you're not getting better. And you can use this free ebook and it will help you diagram what you want to getting to the goals you want to get to. And so that is all I have for you guys. Make sure to check out Designated Winner. Make sure to check out everything that I have at simplifyingjujitsu.com, whether it is free or it is paid. You can also follow me on Instagram at the Josh McKinney. If you ever have any questions or comments, or you want to send a suggestion for a Suck Less Saturday episode, you can email me, Josh at simplifyingjujitsu.com. I read all those emails. Sometimes they get repetitive, so I combine 5 or 6 emails to be a Suck Less Saturday episode. But keep those emails coming so I can keep producing great jiu-jitsu content, and I can keep hearing from the people who actually enjoy the show and want to keep hearing the jiu-jitsu content that I produce. Have a great day, guys. I hope this last little few minute clip helps you suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day.